Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution. Hello and welcome back to Then a Moment, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers talk about stories. I'm
really
Pavi Proczko. I'm audiobook narrator, author, actor, etc.
And I am Colin Funk, childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we have a very special guest.
Ooh. Hello, I'm Maryann Carlson. I'm an actor, but I also teach children how to do theater and adults how to do theater. And I am a professional freelance babysitter.
Ooh. Fantastic. And today we're going to be talking about Barbenheimer. Perfect. All right, in unison. Which, of course, is the two hit movies this summer, Barbie and Oppenheimer, together, mashed together, cultural phenomenon. Mm-hmm. But first, we have to talk about our moment of the week.
That's right.
So this isn't per se a traditional story, if you will, but we were in Alaska recently, and we did a few tours. Mm-hmm. And it is clear which of those tours were better than the others. And so I think it's really important to keep in mind that if you're a tour guide, you really are just a storyteller. Because it was, I think, really the moment where we realized that one of the tours was not so good was like at the point where there was no overall story. It became very clear, like right at the beginning when the conversation started with them. They were driving us to the hot springs, and it was just small chit chat, and it was very clear it wasn't going to be the kind of tour that actually like got you engaged and involved, as opposed to the other ones that we had that were very clear. There was a narrative involved, and they were very fleshed out. So tour guiding is storytelling.
Yeah.
And it becomes very, very clear when it is not going to be that.
And it's just like, look, a whale. And you don't learn anything about the whale.
Exactly. It's like,
hopefully there's a whale for them to see that.
Well, right. It's like, well, that was exactly the whole thing. It was like there might be moose. There weren't any moose. They were like, look out, there's there's some ponds coming. There's usually a moose there. Well, I'm supposed to write it down in my notebook. I was like, what is this?
No moose while we were in.
No moose.
What?
No moose.
In the moose capital of the
I know.
United States?
It was probably too hot.
It was
what
very
they
hot.
said.
There was a heat wave.
The moose don't like it.
Yeah.
So they stayed hidden as far away from the sun as they could.
I've only seen one moose, and that was at the Grand Tetons.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Do you have one?
You have one?
I have a story. Well, so I talk about a TV show that I've been watching.
A moment,
or something?
like if there's like a really good, like, ooh, I loved this scene.
TV show's
So
great.
I've been rewatching Schitt's Creek.
Cool.
Which is just the best. And I'm on the season where they're doing Cabaret.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
And the moment that I had thought of, because these characters are so well developed and their relationships with each other are so well developed, it's the moment of Alexis's audition. I'm a little bit Lexus.
Yes.
Drive my Lamborghini.
Oh, it's so good.
And her outfit reminds me of what I'm wearing today, especially the boots.
Yeah, with the boots. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the moment was Moira being like, no, Alexis should not audition. She should not. It's fine, whatever. And she auditions, and I think she does a fabulous job. I think it's all perspective. She's committed. She is doing the whole thing and not embarrassed by it. And for Cabaret, you know, it's a very interesting storyline that you have to be committed and fully into it. Yeah. And she was fully into it. And then they stop her and they're like, thank you. And Alexis, of course, is like, I clearly got the lead role because I'm so committed to this. But she did not get the lead role. But they did cast her as Kit Kat Girl number 6.
Right.
Which is on stage all the time, which is actually what she wanted. And it just reminds me of auditioning for things, and really Alexis believes in herself, and that's really all you need.
Yeah.
You don't need your mother's permission.
I mean, I watched that and I was like, honestly, she would have gotten cast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the whole thing is like, isn't like Sally kind of not even really the best performer of them all? It's like, it would be very good
she
casting.
Believes in herself.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah. That she's just like going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many life lessons from that.
That's good.
From that television
That show's
show.
so good.
If you're
Love
not
it.
watching it, I think it's on Hulu now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is not an ad for Hulu.
Before we move on, just be sure that you're close enough to the mic. So especially when you're like turning your head back and forth to us.
Of course.
Just because the levels go up and down that way. Yeah.
Got it.
It's a little bit of a trick.
Got it.
Well, my moment of the week, we have been watching the second season of After Party. Did you watch After Party?
I don't even know what that is.
Ooh, it's good.
After Party is excellent. So it's like, it is a show on
Apple TV.
I have that.
never remember which streaming services.
I know.
it shows
Get it
on.
free with T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Ooh, but it is a show. The first season, in both seasons, someone dies, and then they're like, then the whole season is like trying to figure out who done it. It's a big who done it, and it's like Rashomon.
It's a Rashomon story. Yeah.
So each episode is told. It's the same event, but told from a different perspective.
Oh my God, I love this.
Which is awesome. And the detective, the main detective, is Tiffany Haddish.
So funny.
Hilarious.
Incredible.
She's so good.
And great cast. Second season has a couple from the first season that have returned. But in this season, someone died at a wedding, and they're trying to figure out who, and they think it's the bride, but the sister of the bride is somebody we know from the first season. So they're like it can't be her. We got to figure it out. And Tiffany Haddish comes back in, and she's not an actual detective, like she's not an actual police officer this season, but she's like I'm gonna solve it anyway. And she comes in. And this most recent episode we watched, they're doing an interrogation, and she is like flirting really hard with Jack Whitehall, his character, who's a British actor who's playing. Spoilers, obviously, but we find out in this season that episode that he's like faking his British accent. But like, so his real accent's supposed to be American, but he's a British actor.
But he's a British actor, and he's like not the best at the American accent. It's like a little bit of. It's not perfect. It's okay. It's pretty good, but it's like it's a little bit all over the place.
And then like moments where you're like, oh no, it gets a little weird. But like she keeps flirting with him like very overtly, and the other character in the scene is like, what are you doing? You just flirted with him the whole time. And she's like, no, that guy is a charmer, so I let him charm me. So because when people get what they want, they slip up. And I was like, gosh, you're smart.
Yeah, the character's really smart.
There were so many moments like that in the first season too that kept like surprising me. I'm like, oh man, she's like, she really. It's not like she's playing dumb. She's not playing dumb.
No.
It's just like she's doing things that don't seem that professional or that refined, I guess. But there's a cleverness and a strategy to what she's doing. I don't know.
She's always meeting people where they are, which is interesting,
right?
Too.
That's smart.
It's interesting,
it's
and
cool.
The whole thing is about. Really, the whole show's about storytelling. She says that at the end, like the first season, because
she learns everything.
She learns everything from the story. She's like, I want to hear the whole story and just tell it to me. And the other thing that Colin hasn't mentioned is that each of the stories, they're from a different person's perspective, but they're all in different genres.
Yes.
So there's like a cartoon, there's a musical, there's a noir. I mean, it's really, really great. Apple TV, and they're like 30-minute episodes. It's great.
Oh, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That was my other question.
Yeah.
That's a great.
It's really I like it. It's super fun.
Each different genre. Oh, it's really great.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are our moments.
Fantastic. Well, shall we get to it?
Sure.
Yes.
Do some synopses.
Yes, let's get to it. Synopses for Barbie and Oppenheimer. Do we have any volunteers? Do you want to give a synopsis for one of them?
I would love to.
Let's do it.
Which one would you like me to give a synopsis for?
Let's start with Barbie.
Barbie is a movie about Barbie.
What?
If you had ever had Barbies in your life or had walked down the aisle of Toys R Us or KB Toys,
KB Toys.
Wow.
I'm from the 80s and 90s. You would see a Barbie and they'd all be named Barbie and they all have different outfits and jobs, basically. There's Dr. Barbie, President Barbie. Margot Robbie plays stereotypical Barbie, the first Barbie. And you find out that Barbie is made so that little girls have something to look up to that isn't just being a mother and being a homemaker. There's further dreams, and that was the whole point of Barbie. And so we open on Barbie Land, and Barbie Land is this happy place, and you're watching it and you're like, this is children playing with Barbies. This is the storyline of what children play with Barbies. Great. But then our heroine, it's really a hero's journey. A heroine, Margot Robbie Barbie. Margot Robbie Barbie realizes that she has changed a little bit and isn't perfect. She has flat foot, not the stereotypical Barbie foot that is up in a heel at all times. And also she has discovered what is called cellulite.
Oh no.
And so then come to find out that the reason is because there is a child playing with her Barbie in this way. And so Barbie now needs to go to the real world to discover why this child is acting this way and why she's making Barbie like this. So she goes to Los Angeles, of course.
Sure.
Where it's just so easy to film a movie. And is discovering what the real world is, and that in fact, what she thinks Barbie is bringing to young girls, a lot of people don't actually think Barbie does that. People don't think that Barbie raises up girls and gives them confidence and everything like that. And so Ken, of course, comes along, played by Ryan Gosling, who does an amazing job. And he is discovering, when he gets there, the patriarchy. In fact, they're both discovering the patriarchy when they get there. And the way that the patriarchy affects Barbie versus Ken are completely different and very real world. And so then Barbie bumps into America Ferrera and her daughter. And turns out, do I spoil?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
we warn people.
Great. Turns out America Ferrera is the one that was playing with Barbie because she misses the time with her daughter and so has all these thoughts of, I'm getting older, I'm losing my daughter, I wish we could go back to when we played with each other. And that is what Barbie was feeling through America. Now, in the meantime, Ken has brought the patriarchy back to Barbie Land and has told all the Kens about how great it is to be in the patriarchy for men. And so they all think that it's better, and they have kind of talked to all the other Barbies, and now all the other Barbies are now doing the stereotypical woman thing of being at the man's every beck and wish, opening beers for them, giving them massages, giving up their homes and their personality so that the Kens can now have their own place. And Will Ferrell's in it. He runs Mattel. And it's very interesting because the Mattel people know that Barbies are real, but it's a secret, and so they have to get Barbie back to Barbie Land before anything is ruined.
Right.
And so Will Ferrell and his fully white male board of trustees of Mattel are going to go find Barbie to tell her what's up. And so by the end, Barbie and America Ferrera and her daughter go back to Barbie Land, discover the Kens have taken over, and they wake all the Barbies up by telling them and making them aware of all the things that women need to do in order to be noticed, recognized, I mean, give all the things in order for women to have a normal
like the expectations
life.
on women.
Yes, their expectations. And so the women, all the Barbies are slowly waking up one moment at a time. You know, examples like be thin, but don't be too thin. Be really nice to men, but also be your own woman, but not too much of your own woman, where men get uncomfortable. Stuff like that, where it's all this stuff. And all of these Barbies are now learning about anxiety and the patriarchy and self-awareness and all of these human feelings. And they work together to then help the Kens discover the patriarchy is actually bad for both of us. You may right now think that the patriarchy is good for you because you're now getting all this attention and everything. But in fact, it's actually pulling you further and further away of who you are. Being Kenuff, which is I am Kenuff, is a t-shirt that's for sale that's sold out. Gosh. And so the whole point is they're all coming back to who they are, and that they don't need another person to be them. And what the patriarchy does is rip people apart and think that the Kens need Barbies to make them feel like who they are. The Barbies need Kens to be who they are, when in fact, no. You really just need yourself, and you don't need only Kens or only Barbies. Getting their support together is what creates people and what creates this world. And so they kind of discover that together and go back to normal. And then Barbie decides to go to the real world and go to the gynecologist to just see what the real world is like, and to bring her findings to the real world so that women in the real world can discover it themselves. And that is
the end.
Yeah.
That's Barbie.
It's a bit Barbie. Of a Pinocchio story, a little bit.
Yeah. It is the hero's journey, which I did see in my news source TikTok, that a lot of hero's journey stories are only from the men's perspective, only from man's perspective. And a lot of people were like, women can't have a hero's journey because it's not about that. It's a man's journey through the world. Women aren't, whatever. And so this is kind of one of the first hero's journey for a woman where it's not about getting a man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And good job, Greta Gerwig.
That's interesting. That's an interesting observation about a hero's journey. It's also, I think there's I've been taking classes, these like storytelling classes, right? With the story grid, and it's, a lot of it is kind of based on those initial Joseph Campbell kind of hero's journey elements, but updated, where it's like, well, it was early, like we're updating it. It's not about like this product, it's about the process. It's like a very process centric. So like a journey, it's never over, really. You're just always going on. And I think with that interpretation, it's a little bit more open than kind of that traditional, because I think the Joseph Campbell thing it's hero's journey, and then there's also the heroine's journey, and they were very different things.
Yes.
And weirdly, they have like different markers in them that kind of like are equivalent, but they're like named things that are very gendered. It's very strange.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got to separate men and women.
Right, of course. And it's like there
That's
are.
why I married a man.
That's right. That's right. We got to keep us separate. But I guess I did note that while watching that it's like, it's actually, this isn't about ending up with someone.
Right.
And
Because she doesn't end up with Ken.
Right.
Like in a romantic way.
Right.
In fact, she leaves Barbie Land
Right. Yeah.
to find herself.
There's, I think, Moana falls in that too. It's not. There's no romantic element there, right? It is
right.
pure hero's journey, and
another
she's
great
the hero, right? It's great.
Moana.
It's really good.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And true hero's journey for sure. Yeah.
yeah, it's real. And I think that's interesting. I think this will come up with Oppenheimer too. But it's interesting how kind of like different. I've been like exploring how like different like core genres can are present kind of in most stories. So like you've got like your action story where like we can kind of define these based on like what the stakes are, like what these like kind of competing values, or we've got like an action, it's kind of like life and death, or it's like bodily well-being. So it's like the dangers is kind of like the action element of the story. And we know in Barbie there are these dangers, like there's literally moments where they're getting attacked, or it's like who knows what's going to happen to Barbie Land, or she's feeling irrepressible thoughts of death.
Her dangers when she's in Venice Beach and not realizing that men catcall.
Exactly. Right. I mean, it's like a visceral, actual danger moment. But then we also have kind of these this worldview story that's happening, right? Where we have people changing how they view the world, and one of the other, there's like 6 of those genres, but one of them I think is interesting is the love genre is kind of present also, but it's not necessarily about romantic love.
Sure.
It's about the relationships you have and how do you connect with other people.
Yeah.
And it's really present there because we're building kind of those she's building the relationship with Ken that's appropriate. She's building the relationship with for them, right? Where it's like, she's like, I don't like you, but this is the relationship I actually want with you, and I'm going to build that with you.
Yes.
And same with the America Ferrera and the daughter whose name I've forgotten the character's name, but I don't remember any of the characters' names other than Barbie and Ken.
Yep.
That's all I got. Lots of Barbies.
Barbie,
Made it very easy for
Alan.
me.
And Alan.
Made it very easy.
But it's true, those relationships in Barbie Land, like Barbie, all the Barbies have a love for each other. Like every morning they say good morning to each other.
Yeah.
And even when Weird Barbie, they later realize, oh no, she's one of us.
Yeah.
She just went through an experience that we didn't go through and we didn't understand.
Right.
But now that we understand, we love her.
But also Weird Barbie had her own little collection of
weird Barbies,
friends and relationships.
Oh, she sure
found out at
did.
the end.
Yeah.
There was other
Ken
ones.
with the earring.
Yeah.
Discontinued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's some weird ones.
Yeah,
I
Sugar
loved it.
Daddy.
Sugar Daddy.
Sugar Daddy.
Sugar
my
the
God.
dog.
Oh my God, that's so
freaking funny.
freaking funny.
Sugar the dog.
I just love that at the end
And
they
he's
like
her daddy.
yes, I showed at the end like I was like that can't possibly be real, but
They're
then it like
all
shows them.
real.
Oh
They're
my
all
gosh,
real.
it's so funny.
Brilliant.
That's amazing.
I think it's a really great idea. It's like you have this canon of discontinued and current Barbies, and it's like, well, why don't we like put them
What
in a
fun
world
cast
together?
of characters. Alan and Midge and
It's so weird.
Midge, like the just the disrespect is.
I know.
And they were like, we
Amazing.
can't show her that song in the beginning where they're like, we can't show her because we didn't like that she's pregnant.
It was Helen Mirren who was
Yes.
Yes.
the narrator, pushing her away.
Good choice.
My favorite moment with Helen Mirren was when Barbie is crying and realizing that she's imperfect. And Helen Mirren's like, now, just so you all know, the casting of this with Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie might not be the
Just-
right
yes,
person
not
to
the
talk about
right
how
person.
she's not beautiful, that she's not perfect. Yeah. That's very, very funny.
Very
So
funny.
good.
But
So
also that's how people sit. They're like, well, pretty people aren't allowed to have feelings. That's like definitely, it's another societal thing. I mean, it's like the whole one of the main you know, ideas in Barbie is that the expectation, you cannot be too pretty and you cannot be not pretty enough. You cannot be either end of the spectrum. And even in that moment, I love that even the people telling the story, like they even are like, like with her and Midge, where she's like, oh, there's Midge, but let's not talk about Midge.
Yeah.
Like even everyone still has their flaws. Everyone is part of the system. Everyone, like, because even saying like Margot Robbie's not the right person to make this point is even like pointing out that we have a hard time seeing pretty people talk about how self-conscious they are. That's not an easy thing for us to watch as a society.
Because why would they be self-conscious?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting.
There's
there were a lot
deeper.
of there's a lot of really interesting things in this movie, like that.
Yes, they tackle a lot of really interesting themes.
Yeah.
That they're like pulling out a lot of different like threads of like societal woes.
Yeah.
That they're picking at. They're making fun, and they keep it very light, and not always. They do get to have some real moments, but they do, for the most part, really pick fun at a lot of things that are just happening in society.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that actually just happened this week too, that I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of the Barbie movie, is when Barbie goes to the school to find the girl who owns the Barbie. Mm-hmm. And this is where school is where she's starting to feel the anxiety and the self-awareness and like all of these feelings that we feel all the time. And
school is like mini society.
Yeah.
When you get to school, that's like when you start to feel those societal pressures. Absolutely.
Exactly. And like, you know, the table with America Ferrera's daughter, and they're like, no, Barbie is not, they've already decided at 11 or 12 or however old they are that Barbie doesn't represent women.
Right.
And they're just kind of reading it that way because society told them that Barbie doesn't represent women that way.
Right.
And there's one moment where Barbie's realizing her anxiety and she doesn't know what it is. And this mom is like with her daughter and is like, oh yeah, that's anxiety. That's what it is. And just women walk around with so much anxiety. And I work at a summer camp, and a mom dropped off her daughter, and we do musicals, and they just realized that her daughter is dyslexic, so is very nervous about getting a script and reading, and so nervous that there's going to be a lot of pressure at this camp. There isn't any pressure at this camp. And the mom is downstairs after she's dropped her off in tears, filled with anxiety for her daughter. And it's just like the anxiety goes so far that it's not just it's you're feeling anxiety for other people because you feel like you need to take care of everyone, especially when you're a mom. Yeah. And that one moment in the movie where the mom is just like, oh yeah, that's anxiety. We all have it. And trying to protect their daughters from the anxiety and from society. But unfortunately,
and from Barbie in that case, because this crazy person
wearing her pink cowboy outfit.
Yeah. So good.
That, and then the other thing in the movie that was really striking was, because I tell, I'm engaged. Oh, thank you so much. And I tell my fiance, my betrothed, all the time about walking around with giant fear. Yeah. For no reason, because I'm a woman, and society is dangerous to us.
Right.
We don't think that we're safe. Men are very much terrifying. Doesn't matter who they are or what.
Clearly, you can tell.
You all are terrifying. I'm so scared right now. But like his name is Jason. I tell Jason, sometimes when I walk down the street and I see someone coming, I will cross the street. I don't know who it is. I live in fear all the time.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where Barbie was walking in Venice Beach with all these men, and she meets construction workers who she assumed were going to be women.
Right. Which is very
love.
funny premise, because everyone in Barbie land, they're like every job.
A construction site.
Because there's like
I need some
construction
feminine
Barbie.
energy.
I think this will be great and safe in the middle of the day.
Yes.
And then she suddenly starts feeling that fear of men, and she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
But she's feeling it. And that was, of course, a moment in the movie where there were probably about 20 moments in the movie where Jason reached over and grabbed my hand, because we've had these discussions before where he's like, oh, you're relating to this right now. Oh my goodness. Yep. You're okay. And I'm crying going, oh my God. And it's not even a sad moment. It's just me sitting there watching it, realizing, look at Barbie going through what I and many women have gone through of realization.
Barbie learning it. Yeah.
Yes. And we're watching someone learning what we've already learned. And seeing Barbie so happy in Barbie land, it's like, I want to protect her.
Yeah.
Why is she going through? No, go back to Barbie land.
Well, I think it's so interesting that you brought up before the like mothers having anxiety about their daughters. Like it feels, you watch this Barbie movie and you feel that anxiety. You feel that like, oh, I want to stop her from having these experiences. And in some cases, obviously, like we see, like, I don't know what the child in camp's feelings were before, but I can imagine that it would be pretty easy for the mom to create more anxiety in the child while trying to protect her.
Yes.
While trying, you feel it in that movie. You see it in that same scene where the kids are talking about Barbie and they decide, and the one girl's like, no, I still like Barbie, or I still like something, whatever. And they're like, no, you don't. We don't like it. And she's like,
A lot of pressure.
oh yeah.
Right, I don't
There's
like
like,
it.
and you're like, oh, you learn it from other people. Like the moms and everyone around you are telling you, like, it's not even that they're, like, obviously, like, it's both things. It's there being dangers and things like, and situations where men are being gross, and that is actually like a direct threat. But there's also people telling you, hey, that thing is threatening, or that thing you don't want to do, or they won't like you. This thing you should be stressed about. Like, and in like as well intentioned as they could, and that is.
That in itself is also causing the anxiety.
Yeah.
Watching it in the movie, being like she has to come to the real world to have those anxieties.
Yes.
For people to say, like, that's bad. Like, that thing that you like is bad.
Yeah.
That is creating an anxiety that wasn't there before.
Yeah. I wonder
Which
how
doesn't
much,
have to
like,
be.
as I walk through the world and in whatever moments of fear I might have or anxiety, I just wonder how much of it has been implanted in me.
Right.
And not necessarily from, something that I've experienced myself, or that might not even be real. It's just a warning, and it's just like stuck there now. It's just in my brain now, and it's creating real fear and real anxiety.
Yeah,
but it's from somewhere else. It's not. It learned by experience.
The amount of times that my mother has told me not to travel by myself. I'm a big traveler.
Yeah.
And boy, do I travel by myself.
And then it makes you terrified.
Yes. So then I go to places and I am very aware, and I'm like looking around, and then I do my own experience of traveling by myself and going, oh, it's fine.
Right.
It's not. My mother doesn't travel by herself.
Yeah.
Right.
She never has. Where did she learn that from?
Yeah.
And so it's like unlearning all of this stuff that people tell us to fear.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's an expectation for women and mothers to be the warriors and the people that are looking out for everyone else. So they feel like it's their job to point out the dangers.
Yeah.
And so when they're like, no, I'm just trying to be careful. I just want you to be safe.
I just want you to be safe.
But
And, and that's like the job that's been hoisted upon.
And that's an expectation.
Yeah.
It's all feeding into it.
It all feeds in.
Like,
and that makes me wonder too, like on the other side, how much of the, the danger that actually does, you know, you have men seeing the construction workers catcalling, right? And it's like, how much is the fact that they know they can be scary makes, obviously not everyone, but it's a tool in the toolbox for a bad actor, or a moment of, you know, I don't know, bad action by just like a regular Joe is like, well, I can use that to my advantage now because I know that's a thing that society's expecting. Right. I know that women expect me to be scary, so I can be scary.
Have you seen, of course you have, Sex in the City, that one time where Miranda's having a bad day and she's walking by the construction site and they catcall her and then she turns and is like, oh, okay, I got what you want. Yeah, you've got what I need. What I need is dick. And what I need is dick now. And the construction workers are taken aback. They're like, oh, because now Miranda has the power.
Right,
and
broken the
they're
expectation.
like, well, we weren't actually going to do anything.
We're working.
Like, what are you doing, lady? You're whatever. And it's like, well, you were just doing it to me. Why is it okay when you do it?
Right.
But when I do it, it's not okay.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And then the other thing about Barbie, Barbie Land, for example, the place in the world where Barbie Land is the most real is in the ladies' bathroom at a club. If no, I tell you, and I am guilty of this myself, the support for other women in the bathroom, the camaraderie, the like, you look amazing, the affirmations that people are giving each other in the bathroom. It is the most supportive. It is like Barbie Land.
That is very funny to me because in men's bathrooms, you don't talk to anyone ever. You do not make eye contact.
You leave space.
You leave a urinal between you. You try not to touch. You're like, you wait patiently for the soap dispenser if there's only one, and you try to like just give a wide berth. No talking. Zero.
The amount of times I have walked into a bathroom, there is a girl crying in the corner, and me and my girlfriends go up to her and go, "What's wrong? What's up?" And she's probably crying about a guy, and the way that women just lift each other up and it's like, you don't need him. You are so beautiful and amazing. Get out there on the dance floor. You're going to do great. Forget about him. It's you. We're great. We're amazing. Sitting there, anybody got a tampon? Someone's always got one. And like, it is a sisterhood in the bathroom. And like,
I love that.
The Barbie Land, that it's the closest thing to Barbie Land I've ever seen. There's no men.
That makes sense.
That does.
I mean,
I love that.
I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's when
you're alone.
There are times in society that like, these are designated times that they're like, that's why that there are women only spaces. And, because we as a society, we use Barbie, like Barbie has had an impact. Maybe not Barbie itself, but Barbie itself has had an impact. Like maybe Barbie didn't create those moments in the bathroom, but but dressing to impress, but for yourself, that I think that you could draw roots back to Barbies.
Yeah.
And just being a lot of those, I mean, this movie obviously looks at whether or not Barbies are actually feminist. And I think it doesn't give you a clear, I guess
it came out pro Barbie, but not necessarily falling on either side of that question.
The intention is there. Barbie is made for people to have that intention. But like we saw in the movie, if you are told by society that Barbie is not that, then Barbie is not that. Like it all depends on the imagination of the child playing with it.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Is Barbie feminist or not?
Oh.
Like how do you fall on that? So looking at like Barbie. Is Barbie a feminist idea?
Yes. It's not perfect, but yes.
Why?
Because it was meant to challenge the expectations on women and whether or not it accomplished that fully. That's what it was doing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think that it definitely, Barbie is feminist because it's for everyone. It's inclusive for men and women. There are men dolls and women dolls. And a lot of people think feminism is just a bunch of angry women who hate men. And that's not feminism at all.
It's feminism just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But then you think, like, why do women hate men? What is it about it that they hate? My partner is very feminist, and he is so open with his feelings and like will communicate, and that's so masculine to me as well.
Yeah.
You can be a masculine feminist. A feminist is somebody who believes that
yes,
all people are deserving of equality and everything like that. And so I think what the funny thing about the men in the Kens and Alan, the Kens in it, that the Kens were there and learning about that they didn't need Barbie. And Barbie continued throughout the whole thing to not welcome him to the sleepover, right? So he's continuing to ask, and he continues to think that he needs Barbie. But Barbie did not give him a reason that Barbie didn't tell him that. Ken came up with that on his own.
Right.
She was like, no, you're Ken, and I'm Barbie. And that's what it is. You be you, and I'm going to be me. And I think the Kens... and I don't know if they ever learned that they can be themselves and be strong, but there was no man haters in the Barbie land. And I think people maybe viewed that because either they saw themselves as Ken or they watched Barbie reject Ken. I'm putting up my quotes for our listeners. But she never actually rejected him in the way of, no, we are not friends. We are not together. I don't want to hang out with you. The only thing she said was, oh, no, I'm having a sleepover with my girls like we do every night. And no, you can't sleep over too because it's with my girls.
Right.
And it wasn't like you can't because I don't like you.
It's that like, is the friend zone a real thing question?
Yes,
That's where
exactly.
Like, she's not friend zoning him. He's a friend of hers, and she doesn't want more than that.
Right. Exactly. And I think that the fact that the movie opens with, what is it? What's that shot for shot?
The Space Odyssey.
The Space Odyssey.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Where it just
Very
shows
funny.
little girls just playing with babies. The only option
dolls.
they had was babies because the only option they had, and you can ask any, like my grandma, my mom, anybody born before the 70s when women could finally get their own credit card, your only duty was to get married or have children or do both or be a teacher, a nurse, or a social worker.
Right.
And that was it.
A caregiver at large,
yes. And so what Barbie did was be like, no, you can be a doctor. You can be president. You can be, an airplane pilot. You can also be a nurse if you want to.
Yeah.
It's not saying that those are bad things. If you want to be a mother, be a mom.
We've got Midge.
You've got Midge, which is why I don't understand.
Midge.
I'm sure that Midge was canceled because of uber conservative people that are like, oh, we don't want children to know what pregnancy is.
For real.
And it's like, but that's what you're pushing on the children. So we're just following your, okay, you don't make any sense to us.
Yeah.
What do you want? And yes, Barbie, and I think what a lot of people is like the Barbie body, that's like very unachievable. Unachievable.
Yeah.
We can't.
Deadly proportions.
No one can get
It's like
not
that.
those
You
deadly
wouldn't survive.
proportions. And
Those beautiful, beautiful, deadly proportions.
yes, and what's great is they cast women that were many different bodied. They had a bunch of different body types of Barbie and just showing that anybody can be Barbie. Barbie is a state of mind. And so anybody can be.
I was curious about that because I'm obviously like glad that they took that position for the movie. But ultimately, one thing that always sticks in my mind is ultimately Mattel was in on this movie.
Yes.
And ultimately it is a commercial for Barbie.
Yeah.
And so I take some things with a grain of salt, where I'm like, okay, I'm glad that the movie says that Barbie represents all body types and doesn't actually address it in other ways.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's just in the
wondering if
movie.
that's a missed opportunity, like where I wish they would have just been like, I wish they would have talked about it more. I wish it would have been.
I guess that brings me just before let's just talk about what maybe didn't work. So I think that's a good segue into it, just because we should probably get to Oppenheimer soon.
Oh my God.
Yes, we'll do that.
Barbie. Speaking of body image with Barbie, there is 2 types of women.
Only 2.
Only 2. Well,
Only 2 in every movie. I have never seen someone with my body type in a movie. I've only seen
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
big-bodied women or skinny women.
Yeah.
Not an average size.
Where's the in between? And so that's one Barbie that was not in the movie. And it just as a I don't even know what to call my body type. Like
whatever you want.
I got curves, I've got thighs for days. And you know, yeah. And there's no size 12s out there. Between size 8 and size 12 seems to be the forgotten, because then what do we represent? We're not representing the ingenue, and we're not representing the goofy best friend,
Right.
which are the only 2 types of women there are out there as well, according to
Believe in
society.
the goofy best friend and
Goosey.
the goosey.
Yeah.
The goofy best friend in a lot of movies just is like another ingenue, just
Yes.
like with curly hair and glasses.
It is
right?
true.
Yeah.
It is true. And
Pointier
so,
nose or-
that kind of representation in any movie, in anything, is very odd to me, because I'm like, I don't fit into any of that, and so therefore I don't see myself, my body type, in these type of movies. And Barbie has never made here's a size 12 Barbie,
Yeah.
you know, and
And I'm glad that was in the movie. They had just like different sizes of Barbies,
Yes.
but they didn't say like, well, I know we don't actually do this in real life, but
right. And so I'm wondering if Mattel, because what I hear, and I don't know, I'm not friends with Greta Gerwig, but what I hear is that she had to make a lot of decisions with Mattel,
Of course,
and was like,
of course.
Mattel, we're not doing this unless we can do this. We're not doing this unless you can do this. And because Mattel was in it, I wonder if they're going to
they had to have some
come out with a Barbie that is...
which is like what they advertised in the movie.
yeah.
It's
It's the average every day.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to come out
Just
with...
okay, Barbie, or
Okay,
whatever she said.
Barbie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
there
okay.
was that one commercial that when the patriarchy was taking over Barbie
my gosh,
Land,
yes.
where it was like anxiety-ridden Barbie,
Yeah.
or who wore sweatpants
Yeah.
and just had like tear stains down her eyes. That was a reality that I was like, ooh, if they made that Barbie, that would be interesting. But that's not the
they
goal.
literally- They could sell so many Barbies from this movie. That
Yes.
Like some of those things, I'm like, yeah, you could literally sell any of the ones you mentioned, and
Yes.
you would sell.
Yeah. I also wish they dealt with male feminism a little bit better. I know
Yeah.
that their point was to show with a mirror up what the patriarchy is and what all it is. But it's like,
Yeah. It was a funhouse mirror to the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but how do we go from that once you realize, oh shoot, I am part of the problem? How do we fix that? Because towards the end, I don't know if Ken ever really felt comfortable with himself because he was a little confused because he felt so great in the patriarchy, but then knew that it was wrong.
But also didn't like the work, didn't like the job that came with it.
Yeah. And so like, it leaves open a question of like, what can men do to be better feminists?
Well, and I wonder, this is obviously a movie geared to connect with women and women's experience, and I think it's like the strongest experience you're going to have is if you're, you know, a woman or a mother with a child. Like it's a movie about women, and I guess my interpretation was that they're making fun, or they're acknowledging the fact that they never actually put any sort of reality into Ken's.
Yeah.
Like
That's true.
They're empty vessels.
Which is why he like so easily clings on to this idea of the patriarchy, because he's like, that's easy, that's great. And because he's not a fully, like, he's not like Barbie, who like they've had a lot more.
They have a lot of jobs.
They've got a lot of jobs.
Beach.
They've been thinking
a
lot
more complex.
My job is beach.
Ken is never complex. And so because he's not complex, he has no ability to make that transition, at least at this point. That was my interpretation, was that they're saying like, yeah, we know, we never really cared about Ken. We just like, we just made a guy that who is that? Like, they're like, it is like a ripped man who dresses as well as Barbie, but isn't gay. Who is that? Like that's kind of like, that doesn't
really exist.
Really represent that's anyone.
Case in point,
that's why like Alan ends up being a little bit more relatable in a lot of ways. Like he's like the sneaky sort of male feminist. But I want there to be more, as especially as a gay man, when you're like, there's a little bit of gay baiting in the movie, where they're like, yeah, there's like gay jokes, and of course, like that's the joke. Like the joke is like, this very like homoerotic doll is supposed to be straight. Like that's the joke, and I'm in it, I get it, but then I'm like, okay, but like Barbies mean a lot to like gay men in the gay community as well. And this movie does not have to be about gay men, obviously. But there was like something to be desired, because they do address gay people a little bit and then kind of like breeze past it, that I was wanting more in that realm. And in the end, is it okay that it's for women? I think so. But
because for sure, children playing with Barbies maybe will have in their imagination a story where Ken and Ken are together. Like it is very much like when I've babysat children before, they've been playing and talking their stories, and, you know, and this is, you know, so-and-so, and this is his dad, and this is his other dad, and they all live together. So like they understand that. And so, yes, especially if Barbie Land was supposed to be a representation of a child's imagination with what Barbie is, there's so many stories that they could touch upon. And we can't have it be a 3-hour movie like Oppenheimer, but maybe a Barbie 2 or something, you know?
Let's see. I mean, I don't even know if I want that, but
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Like, I guess I would be nervous that it was, I don't know.
I think my big problem just boiled down to just not understanding the mythology of the world in the end. Where it's like, it was a little loosey-goosey, a little confusing to me, just kind of like what was going on. And I think part of it is like, it is a little Pinocchio, and it's a little, it struck me as you were giving the synopsis that it's like, oh, it's like a fairy tale, like where there's like kind of like nonsense stuff happens, and it's more important, the event in the storytelling rather than making it a cohesive like reality. It's
that
not really
moment-
about reality.
It's not about
That
it,
moment
yes.
where Barbie's like, we don't use the stairs, because no, when you're playing with Barbie Dreamhouse, you don't bring Barbie down the stairs.
But there was something
You
that
just
made
let her
sense about
go
that.
down.
Something
Yeah.
made sense about that, but there were just some elements about like why did it happen now that she has these irrepressible thoughts of death? Why hasn't it happened before? It's like just in this moment. Is this the one Barbie world for that person?
Oh,
or
I
it's,
see.
you know, it's like I was like, well,
would the
this is the
other
first time
Barbies-
Barbie's had this. Like, wouldn't the other Barbies have it?
Yeah.
Why? How possibly?
Are there several different Barbie lands?
Right.
Because like Weird Barbie is like it's like the representation of all
All
weird
of them.
Barbies.
And so it's like some like I don't know, critical mass has been reached where enough women have been
Yeah.
having this terrible
Society's
gotten to a
breaking
point,
Yeah.
and they just never quite kind of like
Right.
They don't do it. They
So
don't do
maybe
that.
maybe this Barbie land was only the America Ferrera's family
That's
Barbie
what-
land.
that's what I'm
and there's going to
wondering.
be another Barbie land that some
Yeah.
other kids.
Right. That's what I
Yeah,
wonder.
Interesting. Yeah.
Another thing that I thought about was just like how easily the Kens could come and be like patriarchy, and then all of the other Barbies were like cool, but it's like all the Barbies are super smart. So like, why did they just like give it up?
Right.
And there's something
That was
like again,
confusing.
that's
Yeah.
a very fairy tale where it's
That's
like
how-
it's like magic spell.
That's how
right?
powerful the patriarchy is. Though.
Apparently, all you have to
It's
say is
very
patriarchy, and everyone's
powerful.
convinced.
Yeah. Well, they trick you. That's
Yeah,
the
apparently.
Thing.
I
The
also wish at
patriarchy is
least
disguised.
one of the Barbies was like, I kind of like this other way.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
really
like,
interesting.
I want one of them to be like,
Yeah, I can be.
but I can just like hang out at home, right? Like I can let him still do it, right?
And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the fact that all of them were on board.
Yeah, that
All
was
of them were on
that.
board
It
and then
just
all of
was a
them were
little.
off board, like,
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's the general kind of like, how does this magic work exactly? Kind of
And in
threw
the
me a little
end-
bit.
I guess I don't care that much because it's silly,
Yeah.
but
It is symbolic. The whole thing is like
Yeah.
it's very
but
symbolic.
then why did Barbie go to the real world? I mean, she did talk to, what's her name? Carla from Cheers. What's her real name?
Oh right, yeah.
Danny DeVito's wife.
Yeah, Rhea
Rhea Perlman.
Perlman. Yeah.
Yes.
who I love. Happy to see on,
Yeah.
on screen.
She was lovely. But her conversation with Barbie and kind of releasing her from that Barbie world. So then to your point, if Barbie's gone from that Barbie world, whose Barbie's
Who's
world
Barbie
is
now?
that?
Yeah, I don't know. Whose Barbie world is that? I don't know.
She is stereotypical Barbie.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they're no longer going to make stereotypical Barbie anymore. It's like Mattel's
Right.
coming out being like,
I
we're
know.
discontinuing original Barbie.
She's in the real world now. We're only doing other ones. I was really hoping that there was an extended scene like in the Marvel movies, but
Oh, I was too. Yeah.
did I sit there through all of it? Yes. And I was like, oh man,
Darn it.
I wanted some Alan.
Speaking of sitting in a movie theater
Yes.
and waiting for a long time.
Yes.
Let's switch to Oppenheimer.
Let's do
Love that idea.
Oppenheimer.
Let's do a quicker.
A quick one. Okay.
Because Oppenheimer, it's 3 hours long.
It's 3 hours,
Yes.
yeah. But there's really just like three stories that happen
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously. It's the creation of the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually following him
Dr.
creating the bomb.
Oppenheimer.
We're following a
Senator getting.
and that's like the through line, like the central spine of the story is like the main storyline is the senator getting confirmed.
Yes.
And in that story, we're seeing Oppenheimer build the bomb and Oppenheimer get in a
Interrogated
hearing,
or
getting
whatever.
interrogated
Yeah,
in
the
some
hearing,
congressional hearing.
Right.
So those are like three simultaneous storylines. And so it's interesting because like we find out the creation of the bomb, we find out the end of that interrogation where he's like not granted his
loses his job,
Yeah, he
essentially.
loses his job.
He's an American, but he just can't have.
Right. Can't have
Clearance.
clearance. And then
doesn't have clearance.
right.
Security
And then
clearance. He does not
the
have
senator
clearance, that's right.
is not confirmed, or
Correct.
the
guy who wants
hearing
to
is
be-
not confirmed. He wants to be the director
It's
of
something.
the
Yeah, it's like whatever the cabinet position.
yeah the
right?
cabinet position,
Yeah.
and he is not confirmed
No.
because of his rivalry.
Yes.
And it's
Right.
like so it's a story is like actually like very small. Like we can name those events
Yes.
Right.
pretty quickly, but there's like a ton of stuff that happens in between.
And it's from the point of view of Oppenheimer and is it Strauss? Is that his name?
Strauss, yes.
Strauss.
Wow.
And the Strauss is black and white, and the Oppenheimer point of view is in color.
Yes.
Which that guy Christopher Nolan is a really good storyteller.
That guy, Christopher Nolan, it's really fascinating.
Yeah,
and
because let's talk about the pace of
yes,
it.
is a
Because
3-hour film.
3 hours,
And-
more, right?
3
I think I was in there for we were in there for more than 3
more
hours.
than
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
And it was so fast.
Yes.
I did not feel like 3.
The pacing was amazing. I'm going to bring up Jason again. He has ADHD, and he was like, I was not bored at all.
It was a perfect movie for ADHD.
I was sitting there going, yep, this is happening. Now they're switching to this part of the
Yeah.
timeline. Now they're
Perfectly. That's right for ADHD.
It was like there was
Yes.
I think I made this, it felt like music, where it was like you can tell there was like it was clear measures. It was like there was a time signature where it's like we're going to be here for 10 seconds and then we're going to be here for 10 seconds. We're going to be here for 10 seconds.
Yes.
And certain things are going to happen within those increments that we have like these measures that line up and it becomes this song.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating.
Well, it's really interesting because you have 3 distinct stories happening at the same time, but 2 different modes in which we're watching them.
Yeah.
So somehow it keeps us on track.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it
no
is
idea.
it is like so because you're watching like the same scene. There's a few scenes that happen from both because like black and white was essentially Strauss's
Strauss, yeah.
perspective,
Yes. Right.
and color was Oppenheimer's perspective. It was
Yes.
like we were seeing it through their eyes.
Right.
So we see the same scene like throughout both ways. There's a couple. There's like maybe
Yeah.
5 scenes. I don't know.
Yeah.
That show it
that
we
are
see
in
them
black and white and then in
And in
color.
color, yeah.
Yes.
different times. Yes. So we see them and we know whose perspective we're watching it from.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because especially the Einstein scene where we're like, whereas
Yes.
essentially it's
I
like,
mean, the whole movie, like, I didn't even, who knew, but the whole movie kind of like turns on that scene.
Yep.
And we realize
And the
that like at the
second-
end.
the
Just at the
second he
end, we
walks
know.
away-
nothing seen at the beginning. It's
Yeah.
perfect. Brilliant.
Yeah. You're like, and when they bring it up the second time in a different perspective, you're like, oh, we're going to hear what he says at the very end.
Yeah.
We're going to know what he says at the very end, and I can't wait.
It's just fascinating how they were able to tell this story that goes, I mean, it mostly goes chronologically, but they tell it in some parts out of order where it's like that scene that happens somewhere in the middle of this story,
Yes.
chronologically speaking, is like that last resolution moment. It's so
It's
interesting.
very interesting the way they, because you're not confused at all.
No.
And it is true stories. So it's all based on,
Right.
true events. Obviously there's plenty of artistic license. Like we
Absolutely.
don't know what happened in these private conversations.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
None of them. We have records of like the hearing and there's a couple different things that like, yes, we had records of some of these things. But some of it's up to interpretation. But to tell a story that is 3 hours long from that encompasses many, many years, many different complicated, we're talking about complex physics. We're talking about big ethical ideas and government proceedings and
Yeah.
lots of things that are, they're very complex, but I think he does a good job at keeping the storytelling very simple.
Yeah.
That there are elements that he uses to not throw anyone off. There's things that in a if the story itself was more simple, using those same elements would feel like elementary. They would feel
it'd be
really
very simplistic,
basic. Like
because the story itself is so complex, keeping the individual strands
even
simple.
having just like half of it black and white, half
Yeah.
of it color could be really tacky.
Yeah.
Like it could be, it were like, I mean, but sometimes some of those best.
And I think like too, I think sort of the orchestration changed between black and white. And so like black and white was in fact a character and color was in fact a character.
Yeah.
And so it didn't feel like it was just like a thing. It was
Right.
part of the storytelling.
Absolutely.
which was really great.
It was relevant to what was
awesome.
going
Yeah.
on in some way. Yeah.
But some of those elements.
The
are
sound
amazing.
design was incredible.
Yes.
Really, really amazing. And it's like as you bring that up, it's like the way they were able to weave all of these different elements in lets us follow the trail that we're going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the dialogue itself is pretty simple. Even though they're talking about like complex ideas, there are certain characters that just repeat the same line.
Oh my gosh.
Sure.
Really brilliant.
Why
I mean,
don't
it's like,
you fight?
why
She
don't
says
you fight?
that,
She says it like
Emily
4
Blunt's
times.
character says it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they like, I think it's like an ADHD thing. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm there. I'm still following it. Like it
I've
brings me
connected,
back.
yeah.
And it's like, and that's not the only time it happened. There are a lot of characters that have those kind of motifs that keep coming back. And sometimes, again, in a different story, those could feel really cheap or really
Yeah.
lazy. But I am happy to see complex storytelling where they're like, we need to simplify things. It's like the opposite of Sondheim, who is just like complex and complex and complex. And I'm like, calm down a little bit because we don't need, because sometimes like you listen to Sondheim lyrics where the music's complicated and the lyrics are complicated. I'm like, this sounds a little cheesy because you're making complex on complex.
Yeah.
And it's clever
much.
and it's smart, but it hits the ear funny. And I think there's something about the simplicity of the storytelling that really resonated with me.
Yeah, I mean, the way you say that too, like with those motifs, it's even more like music now. It's like hearing this long symphony and you've got this theme comes in. It's the oboes now have it. And now, it's like you keep hearing that one instrument come in, like even though we're in a different movement entirely, she's going to say, why don't you fight again? She's
Yeah.
going to do it again. You hear the theme again. You hear him do I am the bringer of death, the destroyer of worlds, whatever it is.
Oh, yes.
It's like he says
couple
that, and it's like
times.
that. It's another theme that comes in. It's a low cello coming in,
Yeah.
and bringing it, and it's at these opportune times, right? It's in these moments where it's like, we're actually gonna. It's like hopping little islands where it's like we're gonna hop here, and we're gonna hold you over until we get to the next one, so that we can stay on track. So you still know what this story is about.
Yeah.
Also, all of the actors, there were
so many actors in this movie.
All of the actors.
It was
When-
like just packed.
What's his name? Sirius Black.
Rami, yes, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
He was
When
so good.
Truman and I was like, who is that?
That's exactly
Is
what I was
that
like.
Gary Oldman?
Yes, that's
even
exactly
know
what
until
happened.
Pavi pointed
I was
it
like,
out
oh
to
my
me
God, that
later.
was Gary
No.
Oldman.
That was, I mean, he's in it for like 3 seconds, and I'm like, he could win an Oscar.
He
Yes,
could win an Oscar for that
seriously.
role. It was
That
so good.
was
And that man is
incredible.
scary. His
And
interpretation.
Ren,
so
his interpretation was phenomenal because like it's like we always put our presidents on pedestals.
Yeah.
And here's this guy that's just like joking around with Oppenheimer, and as soon as Oppenheimer's like, we probably shouldn't go any further than this, he's like, get out. I don't need you in.
Terrifying.
Nope, get
I mean,
out of
oh my
here.
God, it is
I don't
haven't-
ever want you back.
good.
I don't know if that is what that conversation was like.
I know.
If it was, I don't know what Truman was
Yes,
actually like, but
exactly.
it's like this interpretation of Truman. I was like,
Yep.
what a horrible.
Yes.
There's something.
Whoa.
There's something about like that. Just like the idea that politicians have to be compartmentalized like
Yeah.
that.
Right?
That totally reads true. You
Yeah,
have
it does.
Truman is like, no, I don't care about
Yeah.
their feelings.
Yeah.
I care about my people and what like
We won
them
the
being
war.
happy,
Yes.
and for that to be the thing that we focus on. Get out of here.
Yeah. And he's
don't
like,
talk to me.
I'm the one that pushed it.
It's not
Get
about
out.
you.
I'm taking the
Yeah.
blame. Wash your hands clean. You're done.
Yep.
It's all me, and I
feel
will
I
wear
have
that like
blood
a
on my
badge
hands.
of honor.
Yeah, he's like,
And
you
I'm
didn't
like,
drop the
"You're
bomb. I
fucking
did.
scary."
Yeah.
You're
I was like,
terrifying.
I now don't like Truman.
Well, it's interesting about that. I know, for real. I was like, I don't know what I should feel now.
He's scary.
Yes, scary man.
Scary.
But that's interesting about like the compartmentalization of kind of those how we're able to compartmentalize those things. As
I
we
mean, that
see,
happens all the time in
we
that
see,
movie. That movie
yeah,
is-
we see so many instances of that in the
Yeah.
film. We see Oppenheimer with that conversation. We see him kind of having his panic attack while he's addressing the crowd after dropping the
Right.
bomb, and everybody in the crowd is compartmentalizing it in different ways. Some people are losing their minds.
Oh my
Some people
Yes.
are having
And
sex
then
in the back.
silence.
Oh my gosh.
I love silence in movies.
I do too.
It is my favorite.
Oh,
It's
I just
really good.
literally got chills.
I know.
Just
Yeah.
like thinking about that scene because that wrecked me.
It's
That
real
destroyed
freaky.
me.
And
it's
I
yeah.
tell you, when I was 16 years old, I went to Japan.
Oh.
My friend Aba Akamatsu was my high school friend, and I went to a school that was half boarding, half day. And so my friend Aba is from Japan, and so her family invited me over. They live in Kyoto, which, of course, that one scene where Richard from Sex and the City was like, everyone's in Sex and the City.
Yeah.
When he was like, I'm crossing Kyoto off of this where we want to bomb because my wife and
we had our
honeymoons
vacation
there. And it's beautiful and full of history. I was
Truly, like horrifying. It's like on a whim.
Yes.
Those people survived.
Yes.
These other people didn't.
Yes. And so that's where Aba lived. And I went there and we took a speed train up to Hiroshima. I was 16.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I knew at the time, I was like, I don't feel good being an American. Can we pretend I'm Canadian if anybody asks?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we
That's very
went
interesting.
to the Hiroshima Museum.
Yeah.
The A-bomb museum.
Yeah.
And walked through as a 16-year-old. If I walk through it nowadays, now that I am an adult and understand things, it would have hit me a lot more.
Yeah.
But that scene in particular where he's giving the speech that we did it, and then there's some people that he like steps on
Yeah.
that are just
They're just crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Ooh,
that
just
woman
the
with
just
her
ash.
face melting.
Yeah.
And then the shadows on the wall. The museum is a very difficult museum to go through. And when I was watching it, it all came back to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I remember going to this. And this is exactly what happened to those people.
Yep,
so many
absolutely.
civilians who did not deserve this. And going there and seeing people who on video who were talking about it and then 2 weeks later were dead.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where Oppenheimer and a bunch of people were being shown slides that the audience could not see.
Yeah.
Except I'd seen those slides before. So I'm sitting there watching, being like, why is no one? And I'm like crying because I've seen those slides and their reactions, the actors' reactions to the slides.
Oh my God.
I was like, I know exactly what they're looking at. And that's very uncomfortable and it's horrible. And oh, good. Yep.
Oh.
Here's my core memory coming back to me.
Oh man.
And so it was done really well in not having to show us the horrificness, but seeing
Just
the
little-
reactions.
just like the touches of it that they show us.
Yes.
Yeah.
is I mean, there were moments, because it wasn't even like the moments where they were showing anything. It was like moments of like watching him, like having it hit him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
What
think
he's
that was,
done
like,
or
really,
what. Yeah.
Because that was what was really fascinating to me about that movie is like we're kind of like, they set it up just well enough that we're like, yeah, come on, you got it. You're almost there. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
you like, it's not like you're rooting for them to make a bomb, but like, you feel that kind of like pressure, like, yeah, you got to get to it first. Yeah. We feel that like, if we don't do it first,
they'll do it.
And they'll like, it'll be a problem. You feel it and you're like, oh yes,
Germany's gonna get it, so
We're
we
gonna
gotta get it first.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we did it. It's so great. We did it first.
Yep.
And then but
to know what that means.
They just give you like a little tiny piece of that feeling that you were a part of it and you were rooting for it and you wanted it.
Yep.
Just to be like, and that's what fucking happened because of it.
And they did the Trinity thing, and then immediately it went to, okay, we're actually going to use this bomb. Send it over.
Yeah.
And so there was the celebration of, oh my gosh, it worked. It didn't actually, burn up the whole entire world. We're all safe. This is great. We did it. And then the next day, the bomb goes over, and they're like, wait, we didn't get to
this is
think
real.
about
To watch all of their like,
hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to watch them just be like, I don't know how I feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe not. But like, there's just so much
Yeah.
that kind of this is like why humans need that compartmentalization. That's like why we have those things, because those big feelings, those like two very wide ideas, they're almost impossible to hold at the same time.
Yeah.
They're so difficult to hold at the same time, because you would just destroy yourself. I don't know. It was horrifying to watch, and I just like sobbed through a good like third of that movie, just like thinking about
just how it's just powerful. It's just like really overwhelming feelings that it is holding those things in your mind at the same time. It's just too much to bear, really.
And I had a thought too about when all the scientists were going to Los Alamos and different security clearances and just being like, this is your job, just work on it. We're not going to tell you what we're doing with it.
Yeah.
You're just going to work on it. And just
the families, the wives
yeah.
that worked the front desks.
And not telling people what they're actually building.
Yeah.
Is something that I think in society we still do. We still have people working without security clearance or without you don't need to know that. You just work on this.
Yeah, you just put this
and
screw in this hole and move
blindly
it on.
doing it, and then suddenly you realize you're the reason why Hiroshima was bombed.
Yeah.
Like that is an emotion and a thing that those scientists had to live with.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why Truman, I think, felt so strongly about being like, no, the American people has to celebrate. Like, they have to celebrate this.
Yeah.
We brought
Because
our
of
boys
that,
home.
The war is over. We won.
Yeah.
Like, those people, our people, would be dead.
Yeah.
Many, many more people than died in that horrible many more people would be dead. That's what they had to believe.
Justify it.
Yeah.
They had to believe it
at the time.
Whether it was true, they had to believe it.
But
In order to survive.
Yeah. It's
as
too
a
horrible
society,
to bear.
We cannot be the everyday person.
Yeah.
Like each person can be, but society has to hold both of them, and they have to still remember all of it. It's like you have to remember history or it repeats itself. You can't just remember that it was a positive outcome for us. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
You have to compartmentalize as a human being day to day to be like, right now I'm going to like look at Hiroshima and be like, wow, they were awful. They were terrible. It was awful.
We stopped the war, yay. But then, the next moment be like, A-bombs are bad.
Yep.
Like you have to be able to do both things.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was reading some reviews of this movie, and I'm curious about, they all kind of had different interpretations. Some people talked about it's about destruction and creation, and some people were like, it's about figuring out what's right or wrong or sticking to your principles. Where do you land? What do you think this movie is about? Or even why do you think so many people have different viewpoints about what you can take from it?
Well, it's war. And war is apparently an unnecessary evil. I mean, the main idea I got out of this movie, what I think they were trying to tell us, is that whole thing that Einstein was telling Oppenheimer about the ripple effect. And Oppenheimer was worried that this bomb was going to, in fact, destroy the entire world because of how science works and it just rippling and ruining the entire Earth. When in fact,
set the air on fire.
Yes. Yeah. When in fact, I think the point of view that I got from the movie was, hey, this is a ripple effect because the A-bomb turned into the Cold War, which turned into the war on Iraq, which turned into 9/11, which turned into the next thing, Russia, the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And so it was kind of a ripple effect because of how powerful weapons are, and it's always trying to one-up the next person. And I'm watching, that's what I think the message was. I watched the movie and was like, why are all these people deciding these big things for us, and we really have no say. Nobody voted to have the A-bomb created or made. It was the politicians that decided, and the army or the whoever, the military. And just watching, especially back in the day where it was all white male voices, it very much reminded me of the Mattel boardroom with Will Ferrell. And it's just, these are the guys that are making decisions. And to see how easily it is to manipulate the government. So the whole Strauss story, who, what's his name, did a fantastic job, because it took me about 20 minutes to realize it was him. Robert Downey Jr.
He was really very good.
I mean, some of the best performances I've seen in a while in this movie.
Very good.
Some really great acting.
Yeah. But him, that one scene where he's in talking to his assistant and explaining exactly, he was giving his villain speech where he's explaining exactly what he did and why he had to do that. But then, Rami Malek, or what's his name?
Rami Malek.
Yeah. Rami Malek comes in and is like, actually, we're scientists and we're smart and we see all these things. But him explaining exactly how he knows people in the Time magazine. So or in the newspaper. So I manipulated the news. Yes, I manipulated everything so that he would get in trouble, because I don't need him. He's going to actually hurt my position in the government. So I went ahead and moved it all around. And the fact that continues to happen. And
how many of our big important decisions are made because of personal beef?
Yes, exactly. And they kept bringing back to that one moment where he made fun of him, and one little moment, and it stuck with him for so long that he in fact destroyed that other man's, Oppenheimer's, future careers. You're still an American, but you can't have clearance, and we're not using you anymore. And that whole thing,
just like the personal reasons for Kyoto.
Personal reasons.
Yeah.
Oof.
And
yikes.
It just very much to me is a movie about the power that the people in power have over the little people. And
there is a little bit, there's like a small element of like, I mean, with Rami Malek at the end, where it's like the little guy still, it's not hopeless, I would say.
But you need the courage to stand up.
It is freaking hard.
And if you don't have that courage,
that's a big thing. The big, like, standing up for yourself. And that's
sticking to your guns. I think, that's
and
interesting.
hoping, because his character could have just been pushed aside, and then Robert Downey Jr.'s character could have been voted in.
Absolutely.
You don't know. That is a huge risk to take, to go, no, this is the truth. This is what happened. And I need you all to know before you make this big decision. And that takes so much courage.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say, Colin, about even just like the little guy coming out and having, it's not hopeless.
Yeah.
But there is something that you brought up, Maryann, about like the very last thing is like what this movie is kind of like telling us. It's like the last moment is Oppenheimer being like, I did start the chain reaction to destroy the world. I think I did destroy the world. And that it's this story about all these people doing what they think is the most right thing in the moment.
Yeah.
The guy about Kyoto. The Oppenheimer deciding to, does he create his first weapon in that apple and let it kill his mentor?
Yes.
Or does he stop it? Which is like this mini like parallel of like what he does later in life, right? He like almost poisons his instructor, and then later on he like stops him from eating it, and then later on he does the same thing. He creates this A-bomb and then tries to kind of curtail its use.
Simple storytelling.
Really simple storytelling.
But doing that
these,
time he can't stop it.
And he can't stop it. And it's too big.
When is it out of your hands?
Yeah.
And he's always doing kind of like, what is the most right thing now? And that's all we can do. That's all that Rami Malek can do when he comes is, I'm going to do the right thing now, even though it's hard. I'm going to do the right thing, with Einstein. And yet, even so, I've destroyed the world.
Yeah.
I can do everything right in moment to moment to moment, and I do not have a crystal ball. I may still destroy the world. It may still be, everything may be at risk.
And I think, in thinking right now, I think the fundamental difference between Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to break it down. Is that Oppenheimer seems to say, this is a lot more complex than it looks. And Barbie is looking at it and saying, this is a lot more simple than it feels. And they're both right. They're like Oppenheimer's like a macro look. You're like, yeah, all these little pieces they're doing, but like this is a bigger, more complex picture. Sometimes arbitrary things are what make decisions. Sometimes one person with a loud voice does it. Sometimes one person with a loud voice destroys these years and years of planning from these big power structures. It's so hard to know and to know what's ethically right and what's going to feel good. And then we look at Barbie and it's like, take it all away because you're one person. You only can look at yourself. And if you're not taking care of this, you're not present with the rest of it. You have to, all those complex ideas that society is putting on you, they're not real. They're not real.
Yeah.
You're actually the ripple effect. So it starts with you and whatever you believe or however strong you can be.
That's all you can worry about. That's all you can worry about.
Rami Malek?
It's a little solipsistic.
Can you be, yeah. Can you be your true self and understand what all of these things on the outside, whether it be the patriarchy or governmental decisions or war or whatever, and can you be true to yourself? And then the ripple effect from there ripples to others.
But that's not for you to decide or know. Or maybe that's where they kind of converge. Where it's
kind of converge. It's like you don't actually have control over that.
You're looking at the macro and the micro, and in both cases, if you're looking at macro, you're like, yeah, that can be powerful, but it cannot be, but it might be. And then in the micro, it's like, you can only worry about yourself. You don't know how it'll affect others. Yeah. You don't have to take on other people's shit either.
Yeah.
You don't get to think about it. I mean, we think about it.
Yes.
we
don't have a say. You don't have a,
we don't actually have a say in the end. They both kind of say that.
Did you see them on the same day?
I saw them on the same day.
Yes, we did too. Which one did you see first?
I saw Oppenheimer, then Barbie.
Yes, that is what we did as well. I think that tends to be what
the internet told us to do.
Yeah.
Because they were like, have a coffee and a cigarette, go to Oppenheimer, then go to brunch.
Yeah.
And then go to Barbie.
We kind
of did that.
We did have pink champagne.
We did have pink. Yeah, we had some sparkling rosé.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
I kind of feel like I wish I had seen Oppenheimer second, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I want to see Barbie again when I'm not in such a dark space.
I think that was maybe what's bothering me. Yeah.
Yeah, because
you just have to do the opposite now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just have another 5-hour day.
God.
And it's fine. Yeah, because Oppenheimer, you're sitting, I don't know how people get up immediately from really heavy movies like that immediately and then just go on with their day. I sit there and I'm just like, and the credits are going by and I'm just sitting there like, what was that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people just get up and go. And so that was the heavy feeling that I had going into Barbie, which opens up bright and happy, dance,
very silly.
Dua Lipa,
yeah, right.
All the things. Very silly, but I'm still in these things. So I'm wondering, when I saw it, there were jokes that I was laughing at that were like deep jokes.
Yeah.
that no one else, I'm the only one laughing. And then immediately after there was a silly joke that then the rest of the audience was laughing at. And I was like, oh, you guys didn't see Oppenheimer
I'm primed.
first.
Yes, I'm
you guys
primed
didn't see Oppenheimer first. You're not in the right space.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely did affect, because Oppenheimer is such a heavy story, especially having been to Hiroshima, and knowing this. And I also took a class in high school called Nukes and Commies.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. You're an expert.
I'm an expert. I went to a wild school.
We knew that. That's why we had her on
Exactly.
the podcast.
And so having learned about the nuclear race and the communist thing, that's something we didn't even talk about. Like,
I mean, there's
so much that happened in that movie.
Wow.
And just like, if you are a history, I was also a history minor to my theater major in college. And so all of this history, all this history that just is because I haven't studied history in a long time, but it's just reminding me. And so sitting in it and then going to Barbie and getting hit with the patriarchy that I've been strongly, learning how to live around, just hits even more. And I'm just like, this is just, and Barbie did not have that happy ending that the beginning promised.
Yeah.
Sure.
Interesting.
It does leave you kind of...
Yeah, and I wonder if I saw that
so
first, it would be a happy ending.
Yeah, maybe.
That's so funny. I almost had the opposite experience where I felt Barbie, not that that it seemed deeper, but I didn't feel it as deeply because of Oppenheimer. I'm also not a woman.
Right.
So
I was like, you
that
also
too.
aren't living around.
Right, yeah.
it's like I understand it, but it's not the same experience, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But because of Oppenheimer putting me in this very thoughtful place and very I'm yes, to the themes and the ideas in Barbie, I could intellectually, I could neither fall into the goofy funness of it, but I also didn't quite go I take this so seriously, and it's really I couldn't do either because I was coming from Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But I could still, obviously, I still enjoyed it. I still appreciated all I could, but it took me out of an emotional place.
Yeah.
And I think it's the compartmentalization. I think I needed it.
And I wonder if the reason that it hit me more is because of being a woman and experiencing exactly what Barbie is throwing in our faces and explaining as if you are a child. That is how it was explained. And because as a woman, I've already experienced all of this, it's being re-explaining and re-watching someone experiencing it for the first time. And you're like, oh God, okay. And so since I was already in that dark place with Oppenheimer and already in a dark place in the world in real life, and then there's Barbie, it affected me differently.
Interesting.
Than I think either people that are not working on, everything kind of goes back to racism and white supremacy. And when I am working on the patriarchy, coming up against the patriarchy, I'm actually trying to work against white supremacy because it's all connected. Because you see what they were representing in the Barbie movie was mostly white men who were in charge, and it was white men that were accosting Barbie in the real world and doing all of this stuff. And so it's I think that some people that go and see this movie see it either as fluff or as feminism in your face.
Right.
And it's well, then you clearly haven't been observing it in your own life and working on destroying smashing the patriarchy, or, really working on your internalized racism or internalized patriarchiness. But I think that one can see both of these movies and see Oppenheimer because it's so like bomb and the story is like right there and it's like this is a historical fact, and then you go see Barbie and it's like, well, this isn't history and it's all fluff and there's pretty dresses and all these like really attractive women and really attractive men. What is the story?
Right.
And it's like, that's the whole point.
Right. I mean,
Is that you're not working on yourself, human being who doesn't like either of these or likes one movie over the other.
right.
You know?
I mean, Barbie really deals with social sciences more, and that's like harder for people to like
Yeah.
really take seriously.
I was gonna
because
say
there's
it's like
so much like
Oppenheimer's history. Barbie
like
is
history and
is like critical
physics, and
theory.
they're very and critical
Yeah.
theory. They're different.
Whereas if
different
you
domains,
don't understand
yeah.
it, it's okay because you're not a scientist.
Right. The physics.
You know?
Yeah.
that kind of science.
And
You trust that. You go, oh, okay, I believe you.
right.
Because you're a
But
scientist.
social science people are like, but
Very-
is it?
yeah,
Because
it's-
there's
replication
even in
crisis,
social
right?
science,
It's
it's like there's so much subjectivity, like because that's
difficult.
That's how you gather social scientific information because it is based on
yeah.
It's subjective. Yeah.
what people are thinking and feeling. That's what it is, and that is inherently subjective. So it's like
And what your
so
surroundings are.
people are going
Yeah.
to disagree
Yeah.
Yeah.
just by the nature of what we're talking about.
Yeah. The conversation on the internet and, you know, people going back and forth just about Barbie is so fascinating
It's
It's really
fascinating.
interesting.
because
yeah.
the things that people are saying about it one way or the other. And you're like, this is a great social experiment
It is.
It
of
really
where we
is.
are in society.
What did you send me today? Was the map of
my
the United
goodness,
States,
yes,
where it was
yeah,
like what's trending, who likes Oppenheimer more, who likes Barbie more, across the United States.
So because Oppenheimer was in
fascinating.
blue, Barbie was in
In red, in pink.
Pink, yeah.
It almost mirrored an election map, red and blue exactly. Like
Which
the
was red and which
states.
was blue?
Red was pink.
No.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
insane.
Which that like blew my
It's pretty crazy.
mind.
And the swing
That's crazy.
states were
The
all
swing
right in the
states were
center.
In the center.
It's so weird.
No.
Yeah,
That-
the more popular movies in the South and in like the Red Belt was
That is
all
so
Barbie,
telling.
and Oppenheimer was more popular in the blue states. It's so interesting.
There's something really interesting about the Barbenheimer just
Phenomenon.
The phenomenon
It's
that like
really
that
fascinating.
fits within the zeitgeist weirdly. That
It's
like
so strange. I don't get
Yeah.
it quite. I don't have any insight as to why before either of the movies came out, it became a thing.
Right.
Someone
Yeah.
there must
It
be
was-
some.
I mean, they both came out on the same.
Yeah, they just
both
happened
had
to come
the
out-
same release
yeah.
date, and this happened in 2008 with The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia came out on the same night, and so they had Dark Knight, Man After Midnight was like another silly combo.
That's silly. That's fun.
That,
missed
so
that
that's
one.
like it is a thing that people have done before.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do a double feature
Use two different
because
things, yeah.
Dark Knight, another Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With Mamma Mia, and they're like these are two very opposite feeling films
Yeah.
that are kind of being, since they're being released at the same time, they're being
Categorized together,
consumed at
yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
interesting.
But that one didn't have nearly the same impact
Yeah,
as
this is-
Barbenheimer has.
Seriously.
Not only does do I see like very clear parallels between the two as we've talked about, but also like complements to each other.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like Barbie, like I would think if someone was like, there's a Barbie movie and a movie about the atomic bomb, I'd be like, well, the controversial movie is the atomic bomb movie.
Right?
Absolutely
That's not even the case.
true. Not
Yeah.
even close.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
No.
like Barbie is blowing Oppenheimer out of the water in terms of box office.
Yeah.
It is.
And controvery,
And-
which
yeah,
you know
and
is-
conversation.
But
Yeah.
controversy drives
popularity,
sales.
right?
Sure does.
Which is, I mean, in the end, smart as we're talking about capitalism. Like we're like Barbie, this movie about like wholesomeness. Like it really, it's like, it's also like, but also capitalism. Okay, we're good. Capitalism is great and fine. Which is so funny because
Yeah.
it's like very opposite to what a lot of like very progressive leftists people would that are kind of like cheering on this movie are like very much ignoring capitalist pieces of it, which is like they're not overt obviously, but it's like it's interesting that it's not like I'm not seeing that as much right now because we're
people are celebrating
liking,
it more. I
think people are liking the strong adverse responses. People are liking, they're seeing people be like, what?
Blah, blah,
no.
blah, blah, blah.
And they're like, aha, you
don't get it. So they're like they're on the side.
It's very interesting.
Unified. It is interesting.
But it's like also we dressed up for it. Did you dress up for it? The actual day. You don't have,
I don't think I did. I think I just wore shorts and a tank top because the music box doesn't have air conditioning. I also saw it in 70 millimeter.
Oh wow!
Which
that's
Oppenheimer,
intense.
not Barbie.
Yeah.
When the atom bomb went off.
Did you just like fly out of your seat?
Yes.
Like,
and then there's that part where the reaction afterwards because it's quiet and then it takes a minute for it to come. I think everyone in the theater went was blown back.
Yeah.
By
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like sound design is really
excellent.
amazing.
But I didn't dress up for it. Many people did. And most people, what I find interesting about dressing up for Barbie is people were in their pinks, their Barbie pinks.
Yep. What?
And that movie, I was like, no, that's not, I don't see Barbie pink.
Interesting.
Like it's not the bubblegum Barbie pink. And I think that it was a fun thing, but a lot of my friends have posted on Instagram afterwards and they're like, I'm showing the picture before because afterwards I was weeping and my face was all over the place. So we're going to post this before picture because people weren't expecting it to be what it is. And I'm wondering if people go, cause it's only it's only been out for a couple of weeks, both of them. And I wonder if people were expecting to go into Oppenheimer, which is why they suggested that order to go into Oppenheimer and be like, get the heavy stuff done. And then we're going to go into Barbie in our pink.
For something light and fluffy and fun.
And then whoops, bam, bang, right in your face.
And then it ended up being something else. Yeah.
This isn't a children's movie. This isn't just for children. Which I find interesting that the previews were all children movies beforehand, the previews before. And I was like, there's no children here. There's no children here. It's all adults.
It's an adult movie for sure.
Adult movie.
Yeah, who grew up with Barbie.
Wow.
And Oppenheimer was also a mix of
just children. There were
only children at Oppenheimer. Of people who, and it's interesting that we were saying before about it being 3 hours, and I think I only saw maybe 3 or 4 people in the sold out place get up and use the bathroom. Everyone else was just in their seat.
He's like a small bladder person.
And I was like,
that's okay.
I don't want to go, but I have to go.
Yeah,
I don't think I can last another hour and a half.
Just about 3. You made about 3 before. There was still like
there's still
no, there was like an hour.
Yeah, there was an hour left.
You were at 2.5. I think.
I was and I was like, I'm not going to be able. I can't wait.
I was like,
and I also wonder if I connect the two because society told me to connect the two.
Of course.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that's like the...
Like if no one told me...
That told us.
If no one told me to see these two together to Barbenheimer, I don't know if I would have connected the two and been like, look at the similarities between Oppenheimer and Barbie.
But what a fun...
The characters.
It's a fun thing.
Sometimes society can... They are allowed to, like, society does inform things. We're part of society. I want to be part of the zeitgeist. I want to be part of like what people are doing. Like,
social contagion is real.
Fun. It was like a fun experience.
And art is definitely an expression and a way to learn different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, instead of just watching the news, which now is just like the news.
Right.
It's like, let's see it through art. Let me see what I can interpret from this piece of art. And like anybody that sees Oppenheimer is going to have a different view outcome. Because I'm very anti-war and anti-capitalism and whatever. And so me watching it is going to have a completely different outcome than somebody who is like a World War II buff.
Right.
And loves studying that history.
Yeah.
Who would say like, yeah, it was
worth it. It was
worth it.
Yeah. I wasn't alive back then.
Right.
I don't know if it,
Right.
I can't say if it was worth it or not.
Wow. Well, friends, let's get to our superlatives.
Superlatives.
Superlatives. So, do we do for each?
For each, yeah.
Okay, we'll start with our Oscar-worthy moment for each of the films.
So it doesn't have to be acting.
It doesn't have to be acting. It can be whatever. But yes,
obviously these
are heavily acted films.
These could actually be Oscar moments.
They actually might be.
In these two movies,
Truly.
I think the things we mentioned could actually win Oscars, which is usually not the case.
Yeah.
For the things we review. These are Oscar buzz.
Let's start with Barbie.
Start with Barbie.
Yeah.
I think the moment where she sits on the bench, turns her head, and sees a woman who is aged for the first time in her life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And she is so taken with this older woman that she just looks at her and says, "Wow, you're beautiful." And the woman just goes, "I know it.
I know it."
And that, I
crying.
think was
I
the
love it.
most emotional
It was.
I was in that whole movie. I was like,
I know.
It
It's
was like,
good. It's good.
It was so, again, simple storytelling, brilliant.
Yeah.
It was like, out of that movie, I was like, wow, that really, really slapped me in the face. It was like,
that was a big moment.
It was so easy and simple, and it really, that was my moment, my Oscar moment.
My Oscar moment is the second Pink song, like the song of it when everything goes wrong.
The opening song.
In the
goodness.
opening song where it's like it's the happy, nice, go lucky,
Lizzo song.
everything looks
Pink.
good in pink or something like that. And then the second one where like everything goes like horribly wrong. It's
If you look at the playlist, it's Bad Day version.
Bad Day version. I think is so funny. That was my
So
favorite. I
good.
love that.
Ooh, so cold.
Yes. I love the moment where Rhea Perlman and Barbie, Margot Robbie, Rhea Perlman plays the creator of Barbie. Mm-hmm. When they are in just that white room, there's nothing around.
It's like the female version of like the Morgan Freeman scenes in every movie. So it's like finally like a real woman.
Here we go.
Figure.
Yeah.
Yes, and the older woman, because I don't know if the creator of Barbie is still alive. Probably not.
So.
No.
And she's just
Her ghost,
hanging out in this room.
Her ghost has an office.
Yes, her ghost has an office. Yes. But when she's explaining to Barbie what she's feeling, and the moment of, I'm going to cry again, of her being like, well, your mother, because she's trying to explain America Ferrera and her daughter, and it's like, your mother is trying to raise you right and is always going to be a part of your life and is always going to try and protect you, and even if at a distance, she's always going to be there. And I thought that those little speeches that she was explaining to her about what female relationships are was really beautiful. Rhea Perlman, Oscar winner.
I mean,
she's got an Emmy.
Yeah, it's true. Oscar-worthy Oppenheimer.
I think Emily Blunt she speaks for him at his little hearing thing, whatever that was. But the way that scene was written and the way she she is so brilliant.
When
so
she
good.
was speaking on his behalf or whatever,
yeah.
when she was being questioned.
interrogated.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
It is incredible. The way that she was answering those questions and throwing things back at him without like being like, she was so smart.
So smart. And
she like tripped him up and like didn't back down. And it was like a moment that I'm like, this might be too far into like, you might be like taking liberties, but like we really needed this win at this point.
Yeah.
Because she kicks ass in that scene.
Because that guy was such a jerk, that lawyer.
Such a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lawyer who was running the whole thing.
Yeah.
What a
who
jerk.
was obviously like planted and was trying to make him look bad.
Yes, of
and
course.
was like, and she was able to, and again, very simple storytelling where the one of the three people judging, not judging, but
whatever the board or the
board who had all the documents.
panel.
just like says something very clear, like I do too, like to what she says, and he's the one that defects from the other ones.
Yes.
And I'm like, very easy and clear that like in another movie that might seem really lazy or really, but it's like because you just kept it simple.
Yeah.
We know it wasn't like maybe it was this. No, he's saying like, no, they had a connection. She was smart. She fought for it. She made a connection. It did a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you asking this or this? Because I could answer it this way or I could answer it this way, depending on where you're asking.
It was really good.
It was very satisfying in a way that I'm like, I need to like watch more. I just like watching any news where people are like sitting in front of Congress and getting questioned. And I'm like, I want to vomit at everyone who speaks in all of those things.
I know.
I'm like, everyone's talking around each other and no one is like asking real questions or giving real answers. And I want to kill everyone.
Yeah. And to be under that pressure too, and to be able to keep yourself composed and know how to answer and not react emotionally. I react emotionally to a lot of things that scare me.
And she did it so
well, the thing is, like, she was, I think, like, she is being emotional, but that's how it manifests for her, which is like, what a superpower.
The way she was self-regulating, she's like, no, I don't know, I don't like your question, like, you saw it happen. You saw it, like, it wasn't immediate, it wasn't perfect. She did her best, but she, like, had to, it was work, and she did it, and it's brilliant, such a brilliant scene, and she was incredible. I was
she's
like,
really good.
I think Emily Blunt should win an Oscar. Just out of all the people in the movie,
people have won for less.
I think Emily Blunt.
That's true.
Yeah, it was
I think
Judi
for
Dench won like
for like 3 seconds in Shakespeare in Love.
Exactly.
I think mine. I'm going to give the Oscar to the silence. What a gasp! I hope that was on the mic. Both of them. Oh, it's so funny.
Silent.
Gosh, that's the silence. It was
so cool.
really good.
Yeah.
Oh man, really powerful when that thing goes off, and it's just like, oh God,
really brilliant.
Yeah,
very good.
I'm gonna give it to, since we didn't talk about him yet, to Matt Damon.
Oh yeah,
Matt Damon, in such a serious topic, brings some relief and comedy.
Yeah, some levity.
Some of the things that he says and the way that he, with his little mustache, the way that he says lines brings relief to the audience in such a tense movie. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're funny, Matt Damon. Oh, back to the business. I think he did a really terrific job of being like, I'm that military guy, but the moment when that jerk of a lawyer is asking all the questions and he's like, would you give him security clearance now? And he's like, well, not now. It's changed. The rules have changed.
I wouldn't give it to anyone.
I wouldn't give it to anybody. Yeah. The rules have changed. Back then, yes, I would have.
Yeah.
And like his character is such like, there are so many levels to his character and you see his caringness and that he's having to cover it up to get the job done.
Yeah.
Right.
But then he exposes his vulnerability.
Yeah.
But he also has really great moments where you can tell he's compartmentalizing and he's like, nope, this is my job. I'm getting the bomb made and sent. Yes. That's my job.
Yep.
And so there's moments where he's like being very pushy and very aggressive. And you're like, oh, ew. Oh, I hate him. Yeah. Like he's not like, he plays it in a way that's like, no, sometimes people get ugly and do horrible, ugly things, even when they're nice people.
Yeah.
And like there's
depending the situation they're in and the environment. Yeah.
Absolutely. He does. Yeah. He does a great job.
Wow. All right. Unearned moment.
Unearned.
Starting with Barbie. Unearned moment.
I would say just like how quickly it jumped to Barbie being like, I want to be real. I'm like, oh, it was just like a little bit shocking to me, where I was like, what is that
Was that an option?
Was that an option? Like, I didn't
You could
know
just
that
be
was
real
like,
now? What?
and it just like it threw me off. And like I did a lot of thinking about this, and later I was like, you know what was really beautiful is that the whole movie you're questioning like whether or not we should want to be like Barbie, and in the end Barbie wants to be us. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's a really lovely message. Mm-hmm. And I think it didn't quite make it while I was watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It didn't quite get there for me.
It was a thinker after.
Yeah.
Yes. And I did, and I after thinking about it, I'm like, I can get on board with that. Like I like that she wants to be real. I just like, I think the way it happened in the movie, I was like, it wasn't,
I didn't know, yeah.
It didn't, there was no sort of clue. There's no setup. There's no setup to
that's where we were going.
Yeah. I was like, there was like, oh, this is a different story than I thought.
Yeah. It felt like a payoff for a setup that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you?
You know, the one part that bothered me was the Mattel men. Mm-hmm. I didn't get it. I guess I was like, okay, they're trying to show us that white men run the world and Mattel is the world.
This is the world. Yeah.
But I just wasn't, because the way that they were playing it, the characters, it was like they wanted to keep Barbie safe. They cared about Barbie. Mm-hmm. They wanted to listen to Barbie.
Yeah.
And then like when all the Ken stuff happened, they were like, ooh, we'll make money off of it. Great. It just didn't make sense that they could be both like pro Barbie, but pro capitalism. And like it just, I don't think that their characters had any character development. It was
Certainly.
very blah, and they didn't have a strong point of view besides, hey, we run Mattel.
Yeah.
We
and
run
we're
Mattel,
a
we
group
make
of
money.
white men and we make money.
I'm wondering again if it's like goes back to my interpretation where they're like, this isn't about the men.
Yeah.
So we make them
We're not
very
looking
simple.
at the depth of the
Yeah,
men.
yeah. Right.
But I agree that I think it like
I'm like, why
It
are
was a
all
little
of
bit in
them
a different
going
movie.
to...
It felt like it was a different movie.
Yeah.
because there was also like, yeah, you clearly cared about Barbie, and there was like they weren't good, they weren't bad, they were neither. They were
Yes,
like kind
they were
of
neutral.
Like, they were neutral, and of course it's Mattel, and it's their movie.
They can't be a bad guy.
They can't be the bad guy.
Can't be a bad guy, but they also didn't. They wanted to be like, but also we know we're not the good guy.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
I think it ends up. It's like one of those moments where because they're like, there's a lot of very strong viewpoints, and for that, like because they had to be like, there's nothing. It's either.
Yeah.
That it like it really.
It shows that it's very like milk toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to please everyone. They're pleasing no one.
Right,
That kind of that thing,
right.
because they needed to like. Hold
I would
Mattel's
rather
hand there.
not have had them
Yeah.
Yeah.
be a part of it. Like, why did they go to Barbie Land? I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
you know,
That's
like,
confusing.
yeah. And it definitely, I think you're right. It's Mattel was like, please show us well.
Yeah.
We're
But also
Mattel,
not too well.
but not too well.
We want to be in on the joke.
Let them forget about us and not mention us on a podcast. Too late, Mattel.
I think my unearned moment, I think it just, a lot of what the daughter was saying, it just felt very, especially with a movie of like complex characters, to kind of have like this very, I don't know, simplistic view of the world. It was like she opened up, you know, like Reductress or like Jezebel and just like read out an article, and it just
Right.
like felt very
The people who worked on this movie do not know Gen Z.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she like the way that like her dad, the whole situation was like, that's appropriation.
God,
I was like, that's
about
a
the dad.
stupid scene. What a stupid thing. The dad generally is just like
Yeah.
unearned for me. Like he didn't
Do
even
you
have to be
know
in this movie at all.
That he is listed because we wanted to see who the actor was. His character is listed as Esposo de Rosa. Like his name is.
That's funny. He's just the husband of.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's cute.
That's cute.
Yep.
For that opportunity, that's kind of
Sure.
cute. And it didn't add anything for me. It didn't add to their story.
Yeah. Nope.
Especially with the way they interpret him in the movie. I'm like, why are you even with him?
Yeah,
like
in the
he's
beginning,
horrible.
I didn't even realize that they were together.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they keep talking about him being at home, and then they show him doing Duolingo, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, right? I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? So I
Yeah.
just didn't. Generally, it was the dad who kind of did it for me. And it with that joint scene in the car, which is like talking to him. I was like,
Right.
none of this works for me. This whole thing
Yeah.
didn't work for
And their
me.
view of Gen Z is very like anti everything. And I'm like, if you've ever actually met or
No,
babysat
that's not
for Gen Z, it's like, no, they are very complex people and they care
They care
a
hard.
lot.
Yeah.
If anything,
She sounded like a millennial friend of
those
mine.
girls, yeah.
She sounded like my theater
If
friends.
anything, those girls would have been like pro Barbie and being like, let's raise this woman up. Barbie is also a woman. Let's raise her up.
Yeah.
She's showing us how to da 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 da. You know, like that's how they would actually talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does
So,
feel
yeah.
like for millennials.
Yeah,
it does
it is
feel
definitely
like
a movie for
I was like,
millennials.
thank goodness, because
Yeah.
they're making too many Gen Z movies these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Unearned moment for Oppenheimer.
I had one, and I have forgotten it. Oh, I think similarly to Barbie, I think the way it ended, being like, oh, this is a story about like
This.
the aide just like getting his comeuppance.
Yeah. Like
it was a little bit, and I think it's because it's like, this is heavy and we need to end on a win.
yeah.
But it does feel a little, it's like too pretty of a nice like ending of a
They've
story.
wrapped it up.
It was like too easy of a, they're like, I think for the simple storytelling, it makes sense to be like, okay, we're following this like hearing whether or not he's going to get confirmed on the cabinet, and then to have that the aide character switch where he's like, no, I'm against you.
Yeah.
The way that it happened was very satisfying, but I was like, wait, that's a story? That's how it...
Right.
It's a little strange.
that's
I
how we
think
tie it
I
up?
think I have to agree with that. I think I'm going to have to just...
You're just gonna
I'm
jump on mine?
I'm going to double tap, because it's just... It becomes, if we consider that black and white story, the story of the confirmation, is the main thrust of the storyline,
Yeah.
that we're seeing Oppenheimer's story in relation to this, that makes the aide who's like helping him get confirmed the protagonist,
of the
Right.
movie.
who has the real change and makes the real decision. And I'm just like, who even is that? Like,
Right.
I was like,
But
it
that
was
makes sense story structure wise.
story structure wise, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And the movie's called Oppenheimer, and it's interesting, and it's like it tells the stories, but I'm like, I don't even know who that is. It was a strange character to be following who doesn't do anything until that last moment, really. Mm-hmm. And is
He's
just
just sitting
asking
back and
questions and getting
listening.
told about stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So and that is an interesting choice to me. It seems strange.
I love me some Florence Pugh. She's my favorite.
I love her.
These movies, a lot of historical movies leave out women. And I think that the big women in it are connected to Oppenheimer in a sexual way.
Yes.
And I just really am sick of that storytelling. There were plenty of women who worked on the A-bomb. They showed up every once in a while. My favorite line was, they were like, oh, well, you shouldn't be there because of your reproductive system. And she's like,
Right.
well, yours is more exposed than mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do I remember her name? No. I
Yeah.
don't know any. I don't know.
No.
Was
Yeah.
it the same girl? I don't know.
No idea.
I am unclear.
Was she the one that came in and was like they wouldn't let me in or they wanted to make me a secretary.
Yeah.
And like, did you learn how to type? No, not in my years
Right.
Yeah.
my PhD
right.
or whatever.
Were they the
Right.
same person or no? It was so all the
Yeah.
women characters were either scientist or lover of Oppenheimer.
It was very, yeah, it was very,
And-
they were either lovers or there were women
Yeah.
here too.
Yes, exactly. And I'm
Yes.
sick of movies just throwing women in just to have women
Yeah.
in. And especially in
It's funny
based
that-
on a true story, when part of the true story is there were women there.
Right. Right.
It's just very funny to me that one of our problems with Barbie is that they throw in men just to be there. That was one of the main criticisms
Yes, and
of
then-
Barbie.
Yeah.
And
then-
maybe like that is
Yep.
on purpose.
Yeah.
And I did, yeah. And they were both my negatives was the Will Ferrell
Yeah.
characters and then the women. I'm like, where's
There
the
you go.
equal? And that is feminism, everyone. Feminism
We solved
is
it, guys.
we
Let's
Yeah.
go home,
solved
wrap
it.
it up.
Feminism is equal men and women in these storytelling. We need more meat on their characters. You can't just make a movie about men when women were present, and you can't just make a movie about women when men were
It
present.
just ends up being like an experiment, like
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. Is that a thing?
I don't know Reservoir Dogs.
The movie?
The movie
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
It's the
I've never seen
the Tarantino.
Yeah. With those guys.
And it's just men,
Yeah.
and it's like it ends up feeling like this weird like social
Yeah.
experiment where it's like this
Yeah.
is what happens when men are in a room together.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so I would have liked more of a, because Florence Pugh is a phenomenal human being and actress.
And she's great in it too.
She's
excellent.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that I knew more about her. And he and Oppenheimer cared so much about her. And I was like, but I don't know anything about her because
Yeah,
all
her-
I've seen is her and you hooking up. I don't
Yeah.
know what, and I guess she's
I
a
know
communist.
she was a communist. I know that much,
guess
but
she's a
not
communist.
not even
About
like
it. She wasn't
yeah,
like-
she didn't
Right.
care that
But,
deeply.
like,
Just
what-
like generally
Yeah.
about like the ideal
and how everybody was talking about communism. It
Yeah.
was like, well, I was, but like, I don't know. That was, I loved when Emily Blunt was like, I don't know. That was like 16 years ago. Okay. 17.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
18.
So good.
18
I tell
years.
you,
Yeah.
I tell you, that's
And
the
like
best part of the
communism
movie.
was just thrown around and people didn't really know what it was. They just knew that they didn't want to be a part of what was happening now.
Right.
Right.
And here's a
Which
change.
I think the stuff about communism was very intentional.
really-
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But of course, like that.
But yeah.
we did, and it felt like Florence Pugh's character was like, "This is." We also are talking about mental health.
Yeah.
and I'm like,
There was a lot happening in such a short amount. She was probably only on for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, she did
And
well. She might get
phenomenal in
nominated.
her
she could get
good
nominated too. She
career.
did get really.
Yeah.
She did
Love
do
her
really well.
Yes, but I wanted more of that story, and like he so easily just went and married. I mean, that says a lot about Oppenheimer. He so easily married Emily Blunt's character because they got pregnant and
Well, he
immediately
would
dumped.
have if he would have married.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh's character. See, we don't even remember her.
I know.
character's name. I guess we don't
I
remember.
know.
I don't remember most of their names, to be fair.
It's like Jenny or Jean.
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 That's right.
That's a great
Jean.
name for her.
That's a good
Let's
name.
call her that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but because like he was pursuing her at the beginning,
Yeah.
and she was like, "No,
Yes.
Yeah.
no."
Don't bring
But
me
maybe.
flowers,
Yeah.
but also
Bring me
make sure to
flowers.
bring me flowers.
Again, motif.
Yeah.
Every.
The flowers.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you want any more
Good movies.
superlatives?
I think I'm good. We've been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I was
Are you
just gonna
sad?
say best Barbie outfit, but
Oh, best Barbie outfit.
come on,
I
there's
don't
so
know if I
many good
remember
ones.
them. Oh my god. Okay, give them quick.
Well, kind of like what I'm wearing, but in blue.
And what are you wearing? You're wearing polka dot.
Oh, I'm
red
wearing a
dot?
polka
For our
dotted,
listeners.
like it's a.
If you want to see, check out the YouTube.
Yes, if you want to see.
Check out the YouTube.
Hey, it's what do you call this?
Halter.
A halter, and like a heart shaped
Sweetheart
over a
neckline.
sweetheart neckline. I know everything about fashion. And then it's like a short little dress that goes just above my knee, and then I've got long boots on. And so there was a moment where Barbie was wearing a blue outfit with a little heart, and it was when she was waking up and about to discover that she had flat feet.
Oh my God.
Loved that outfit.
Lovely.
And my favorite Oppenheimer outfit
Oh, yeah.
just
Was
kidding, I
a
don't-
dark suit and a hat.
was that dark suit and a hat. No, Einstein's outfit. He was cute.
Oh, yeah. Einstein's
he was a
outfit,
mess.
for sure.
Loved him.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
I think it's just like iconic. The roller skating outfits were so.
Ugh, that's all I know. That's all I can remember.
Yes.
I don't remember anything
They're so
else.
good.
Yeah, they were really good. And especially it's like so funny, like Southern California, you'd expect in LA
Yeah.
that they would fit in to some extent. Like it's like if there's anywhere that you would see that
Yeah.
outfit to be there, and they were
did
like
not
so.
be
did.
sticking out
didn't.
as much as
No,
they
I didn't think so. I was like, don't they all just wear that?
Yeah.
I've never been to LA, if you can't tell.
The costumes were lovely.
They were. The
Just
costume
so
design
good.
was perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
The design was good.
Yeah,
in
the
general.
design was great.
Okay, cool.
Wonderful. Let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us for Then a Moment. I'm Pavi Proczko. And remember, Oppenheimer is a feminist movie. Wait a minute.
And I am Colin Funk. And remember, men and women are equal unless they're scientists.
And I'm Maryann Carlson. And remember, see Barbie before Oppenheimer.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Then a Moment, a Pavitas production project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast is produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriou, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Then a Moment Pod, all one word, for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at thenamomentpod@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.